Okay. We'll call to order the October 15th, 2012 meeting of the UHS number 6 board. Thank you all who are here. And we will start the meeting with clerk's report and the approval of minutes for October 1st. Did everybody receive the minutes of October 1st? Okay. Is there a motion to approve them?
I move approval of the minutes of October 1st.
Seconded.
Mike?
When do I make an objection to that?
No, I'm going to just say any additions, corrections, deletions, or comments.
I don't remember abstaining. I didn't want to abstain to that. I don't know if I accidentally did or.
Okay.
So if you could change that.
I'm sorry, to which?
I can't pull it up right now. I had it.
Okay, well, I haven't.
I think I had you abstaining for 2, but I don't happen to have my copy back here.
Yeah, it was. I kind of remember the incident, but I would like that to be changed to not abstaining.
It wasn't related to approving prior minutes of a meeting you weren't at?
No, it was. Oh, maybe it was.
Because we saw it, we had that.
We had that
discussion,
conversation.
We weren't sure who was where.
Yeah, who was? Yeah. That might be. It might be right then.
And I think we sorted that out.
Okay.
It was you and Sean abstaining to a different
I
meeting.
had
We figured out who was not at which meeting.
Yeah, I was not there for the September 10th.
Yeah, we had a flip-flop. Okay.
Yep.
These minutes are fine.
Is there any other additions, deletions, or corrections? If not, all in favor of approving the minutes of October 1st, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? The minutes are approved. Communications. Any communications for the board? I have none. Okay. Anything else for the clerk's report? Okay. We move on to recognition of groups and or individual visitors. We have 2 individual visitors who together are a group, I guess. And this comes under our strategic plan for board education. And I guess you want to introduce? Yes.
Thank you. Yes, thank you
Some
very
opening
much.
comments.
Absolutely. Yep. Thanks for allowing us to do this. And I did ask Betsy Stacy, director of our Beams program, and Suzanne Grenoble, foreign language teacher, about 10 languages she's up to now, many foreign languages, if they would come this evening, and they both said yes immediately. So I was delighted that they chose to come. They've both been here a very long day today. Neither has gone home yet. Both live out of town. Betsy is the director of our Beams program. You've heard the BAMS committee has heard probably more about our Beams program than the board as a whole, but I know that you're familiar with it. And Suzanne wears another hat for us as director of our summer learning program. Together, they made an excellent co-directorship this summer for our summer learning program. And because our extended day and summer learning programs are so integral to BAMS and the effectiveness of BAMS, we see them as seamless programs to our school day programs and are, as I say, very much a part of the fabric of our school. So asking them to come and talk to you about those programs will give you greater insight into the power and depth of those programs. You hear about school day programs a lot, but not as much about extended day and summer, and this is a very good opportunity for that. So they have a little PowerPoint that they're going to co-present to you, which will give you a very good overview of what this is all about. So we'll take it away. One thing I will share is that Betsy has been with us about 2.5 years now.
Almost 2.
What? Almost 2? No, it wasn't 2 this past February? No? Oh. Well, she is so good that it just feels like she's been with us forever, really, since we've had the Beams program. But apparently she hasn't been. Anyway, we've had after-school programming in our building for about 7 years now. But I can tell you that we have, the program has just developed and become so fully realized under Betsy's directorship that it has exceeded our vision of what after-school and summer programming can be. So she's been phenomenal. I really think she's been with us longer than she thinks.
My part I have. Well, I'm so excited to talk to you today about expanded learning or extended learning. There's a lot of terms for this. Out of school time is another term you hear. Basically, we're talking about after school, vacations, weekends, and summers. And BAMS is doing a really good job at this. And it's part of why I'm excited to be here today is that you should be really proud of what your town is doing in terms of extended day, and we'll talk a little more about that. But so probably one of the most important things to keep in mind is that children spend about 1,000 hours in school a year, but they have 5,000 other hours that they're not in school. And for some kids, that time is very well spent. For other kids, that can be a time that can be very risky for them. For our middle schoolers in particular, middle schoolers don't have to be in daycare after school. They could go home, but that's not always the healthiest choice for them. And so it's great that we can be there for them. There's more and more research about after school and what quality programs can bring to students. So obviously school performance is important, and after school programs can really help with school performance, and there's certainly evidence of that. These researchers, Durlach and Weisberg, have done some really big sort of meta studies across our nation about after school programming, or they've looked at some really big cities like Chicago and the changes after school programming has made in those cities. So school performance is certainly part of it, academic performance, but other parts of it are social and emotional outcomes and how you can help students, which in the end helps them with their school performance. And we'll be talking a little more about that too. These are our specific goals. So the BEAMS program, the goals are to increase academic achievement. There's the social and emotional development part of it, inspire healthy choices, so that can be physical and mental. And then building connections between students, families, faculty, administration, and community members to meet the needs of our children. So this is a really important part of what BEAMS does. I think there's some good evidence that the more bonded to school students are in middle school, the more likely they are to graduate from high school if they feel a positive connection to the school as they go into 9th grade. So that's an important part of what we do. We also really like to connect with families and to help students to feel supported on all different sides, both from their families. We have parenting classes that we also offer called Guiding Good Choices, connecting with the community, but also just connecting with individual staff members and finding that one staff member that they feel safe talking to if they're in any sort of crisis, which is really important. I wanted to just put in a slide about college and career readiness. I know it's a really important part of the Common Core. Some of our programs directly deal, we do college visits, we go to the cotton mill on career day, so we certainly do field trips like that. A lot of our clubs have to do with things like engineering and the culinary arts and childcare, all sorts of things like that. But I also want to say that a lot of the work that we do in social and emotional development is also really important to being ready for college and being ready for a career and being a functional adult. If a student isn't confident, if they don't have integrity, if they can't stick to a task, those are things that after-school programs really help with that can help them further their level of success. So here are some of our numbers in terms of how many students we deal with over the years, or how many students we have the pleasure to spend time with. And so you can see this is the percentage of time, percentage of the school, of the whole school, of the students. So keep in mind, there's also a lot of other things offered after school, and I'll have a list of those later. But so we tend to have the kids that aren't doing sports because they're busy during the same time that we offer programming, except for in the summer, and we'll talk more about that at the end of this slideshow. But even right from 2009, we had 46% of the student body, and then up to 58%, 56%. Already this year, we're up to 40% today. So that's including summer and our fall session 1. And then you can see adult programming. That's that Guiding Good Choices adult parenting class that we offer with the Prevention Coalition. We have some more specific goals too. I just want to point out a few of them. One thing we always want to make sure that we do is ensure that students that are in the most need are the ones that we're helping the most. So we do try and focus in on students that qualify for free and reduced lunch. So of our regular attendees, a regular attendee at Beams means they come for 60 or more hours during the school year. Some of them do a lot more than that, but they have to have at least 60 or more hours with us to be a regular attendee. So 51% of our regular attendees were enrolled in free and reduced meal program. That's a little bit higher than the average. And then 42% of the Beams regular attendees had either an IEP or a 504 plan. So we tend to have a higher percentage of that as well. And we're always another big focus we have is student leadership. We're always looking for clubs that they're interested, clubs that they want to help lead, really taking their ideas and building their confidence by seeing what we can do with their ideas. We offer about 20 clubs a session. We have 4 sessions. So I'm not going to make you listen to the name of all the different clubs that we have after school, but we put them into these categories. So there's the performing and studio arts, literacy, science, technology, engineering, and math. We have a real big focus on STEM programs in our after-school time. Life and career skills, that fits a lot of things. That's all of our cooking clubs that are really popular. The babysitting courses have been really popular. Girls Club, Wilderness Adventure, a lot of things are in there. We do quite a bit with athletics and try to sort of fill in the spaces that the athletic department can't, those needs that they can't fulfill. And I wanted to show you all something that we've been working on, and I'm hoping, we'll see if this works. We might not be connected. Oh, it's going to work. How about that? So I just felt like this was a good example of a project that a club worked on. This is a club called Video Club. It's from this session. They decided to make an anti-bullying video because they wanted it to be part of a contest where they could win some money for the Beams program. They were kind of motivated by that. And they, so the great thing about this is also an example of how we're collaborating with the community. The BAPC, the Prevention Coalition, got a grant that covered the cost of this whole club for us. So this was at no cost to you. Oh, you're not going to be able to hear it, are you? Can you hear any of it? Not really. This volume too. I think we're gonna lose it.
Are the speakers?
That's okay. I don't think it's gonna go. It's probably our connection isn't very good. That's all right. I wasn't depending on it. But Jerry saw it earlier today, and it's really cute. So it's just a 1-minute long video. But that's the sort of interaction that we have with the community, where we have a community member that comes in, and then information that goes back out to the community, and that the students can feel like they really have a part in. I also brought a list of after-school clubs that are currently running. That's on the yellow pages over there. We have a couple of handouts over there if you want to grab them on your way out that include information about summer programming as well. Some of you have seen those before. We have a lot of community partners, and again, I'm not going to read the list for you, but you get the idea that part of the idea with after school is bringing kids out into the community, having the community come to us so that they can be connecting. It also really benefits us in terms of financial sustainability, that having those connections is a way for us to get free programming a lot of the time, and that truly has been working well from us. The American Red Cross and Safe Sitter, we got free programming from both of them. And we get discounts from the Circus Arts, New England Center for Circus Arts. So there's programming from Experiential Tools, Inc. for our staff to get trained. The Prevention Coalition I already mentioned. We work with Big Brothers Big Sisters. We are a site for Big Brothers Big Sisters as well. I also wanted to point out that we have about 15 staff and faculty members that teach for BEAMS. So the staff that we have are very highly qualified. So they're either certified teaching staff or community members that have a special skill that they can share. So our other programs, like I mentioned, Big Brother, Big Sisters, Guiding Good Choices, and then the summer programs, we're really going to go further into that as we go through it. You'll hear from Suzanne a little bit about that as well. So the funding for BEAMS changes over the years. The original funding is from the 21st Century Community Learning Center, which is a federal grant. So it was 100%. That's a diminishing grant that it goes down over the 5 years. And right now we're at 65%. Them covering 65%. The school board, local support comes to about 19%, and then we raise the rest of the money. So this is our plan. I do have, for people who are especially interested in the finances, I do have a couple copies of our sustainability plan and sort of how it looks over these 5 years. Just a quick list of some of the other non-BEAMS related programming that we have. So there's a math program, student leadership, school athletics, jazz band, and another singing club. So there's a lot that's going on that's even beyond BEAMS. So switching gears a little bit now to summer opportunities. I'm really excited about summer learning. I think it's super, super important. And Suzanne's really going to go into sort of the nuts and bolts of what research is telling us about summer programming and why it's so important. We've really expanded our summer programming at BAMS over the years. So the BEAMS offered 1 week initially, and then the next year 1 week, and then we expanded to 2 weeks and about 40 kids. And this summer we really tried to expand that much more, and we offered these 7 different possibilities. These 4 are the collaboration that we talked about, so BEAMS and the school, the summer learning programs. The BEAMS staff covered the afternoons, and then they were very focused on academics in the mornings. But this humanities camp here was through a grant from the Vermont Humanities Council. Fire and Stone Wilderness Adventure Camp was based on a club that we run all year, and then we expanded it into a camp. And really, all these things were full or over full. The Summer Switch Intensive is focused on confidence building, getting ready for the transition to the next grade, and that's mostly on the ropes course. And we had some great numbers in terms of how many attendees we had for these programs. So 71 different students total. For some students really came for all 168 hours. There were a few students who came to every single thing we offered, which to me just really shows the need of how they really didn't want to be at home. And we also offer transportation. That's a big part of all these programs. The transportation, getting home. If we didn't have a way to get home, if they didn't get picked up and dropped off in the summer, I think we'd see about half these numbers. It makes a big difference. So that is my last slide, and before we transition to Suzanne Grenoble, I just wanted to thank you all for supporting the after-school and extended day learning programs. The BAMS has a really good connection between its extended day and its school day, and we're really lucky to have that. Other schools don't have that tight a connection. I feel like our program is looked at in the Vermont after-school professional community. We've been asked to speak at conferences. We mentor other programs, both in evaluation and just in programming, educational programming. So I really feel like we do have a program that people are looking at across the state, particularly because we focus on middle school, and other after-school programs struggle with their middle school programs. So, I guess with that we can switch gears. Thank you. Yeah, and then you can go back if you want to.
So I'm Suzanne Grenoble, and as Ingrid Christo mentioned earlier, I teach foreign language at BAMS. A total of last count, I guess there's 5 different languages that I teach, but mainly specializing in modern languages, especially Spanish, French, and German. Also, we have Chinese going on for the 7th grade and Latin as well. But today, this evening, what we're focusing on and talking about is summer learning, the learning that occurs throughout the time when kids are off for the summer. And it's not so much a time that kids can learn something new as it is a time when there's an opportunity for learning that has already occurred to erode, in a sense. And that's when, if it's going to happen, that's when it does happen over these several months of the summer break. And not only does learning tend to erode, but it erodes for certain demographic groups more than for others. And unfortunately, that is the fact. Studies have shown that children from high poverty areas experience the greatest learning erosion, especially, of course, in math skills and reading. And in some cases, they've found through research again that these learning losses stay in place throughout the following years, such that a first grader who has gained a lot of ground in reading before the summer hits may lose almost everything he or she gained during the summer and maintain those losses throughout the following year, thus perpetuating what we call the achievement gap. Why summer learning? To really combat that tendency to forget, basically, everything that was put into place in the previous academic year. And what makes summer different from learning during the school year, well, besides the fact that you're in summer and you're in school? Summer classes tend to be smaller and more individualized. The pace is more relaxed, and the student-to-teacher ratio is much higher teacher-to-student ratio. Classes are much smaller, and therefore children receive a lot more individualized attention. And the children we're speaking of, those who have learning deficits in reading or math, or perhaps other deficits in learning, thrive with more attention. This is what really feeds or nurtures them as learners. And some people may ask, especially the parents, may be asking, isn't the school year already long enough? Actually, it isn't, according to President Obama and the U.S. Secretary of Education. According to their numbers, American children spend the least amount of time in terms of learning days in the classroom. We're number 17 on the list that I'll show you in a moment. And as such, our summer breaks are long by comparison with many countries in the world. And this is why we have to be especially concerned about learning erosion during our summer breaks. I'll show you the numbers. So these are numbers that I got from the Department of Education website, the U.S. Department of Education. Japan seemingly has the most days in school overall, and the United States comes number 17 after Nigeria and Hungary, Nigeria, and France. So there we are, 180 days. So I'm not saying we need to extend the school year by any means. I'm just saying that there is room to extend learning throughout the summer months when we do have time available to do so. And again, according to federal numbers, the NAEP Reading Report Card of 1998 found that nearly 40% of fourth graders failed to read at basic achievement level, which is defined as a level where they can maintain their fourth grade learning. So that's almost, well, that's very close to 50%. It's too close to 50%. According to the same study, poverty is a high risk factor for illiteracy. Another study in 1999 found that 68 of fourth graders who are from poor communities failed to read at their basic achievement level. And this is a difference of 28 percentage points between the two demographics. And that is what we call our achievement gap. And as I mentioned earlier when I started talking about the achievement gap, that reading erosion over the summer can become a permanent learning deficit, particularly for disadvantaged children. A Baltimore study found that in high poverty schools, as I said earlier, reading gains made during the school year could be eroded or actually erased during the summer months. And that same study concluded that disadvantaged students are at the greatest risk of skill erosion. So conclusion, no matter how much we try, no matter how heroic our efforts are, and sometimes they do seem like we're trying to be superheroes here, some children, a group of children, may lose some of those progresses made during the year, during the summer months. We may not be able to make up those gaps. So we don't want to see that happen. We work very hard during the year with after-school programs to avoid that, to help nurture children. So now that we have an opportunity to work during the summer months, we're very happy to be able to combine forces with Beams and summer school. We don't want to say those two words, but to combine those two to make a full day of both learning and other activities for children has worked very well. We had our biggest day this summer was the academic learning in the morning. We had 37 children at our biggest day. And the least children we ever had on any day for academic learning was 27, which I found to be somewhat surprising that we had all those children show up of their own free will. They were not forced into the building. They came happily with a smile, and I did not hear any complaining from the children. So I was really impressed with their attitudes. So how does summer learning help? We provide smaller classes, individualized attention. It's a shorter time frame. It's not as demanding a curriculum. There's much less stress involved. We can intervene in a targeted way to each child's problems. Every child has very individual problems with their learning, and we're able to, as teachers, target those, intervene very quickly, and provide solutions that are very targeted and individualized to each student. We also have time to sit back and relax and have fun with learning while challenging this summer drop-off that we're trying to avoid having happen. So basically all those things, along with the fun that we had field trips this last summer. We went to Spofford Lake. The 7th and 8th grade both went to Spofford Lake, had a barbecue. It was a lot of fun. We had tie-dye. We had lots of cooking going on. We created our own recipe book. So it's not just math, it's not just reading, it's everything combined, which has helped the children to create some camaraderie amongst themselves and also a lot more confidence when they hit the school building in September. Especially our 7th graders have a lot of confidence. They felt like they knew where they were and what they were doing there, and things have progressed really well this year for those children. So that's it from me.
Thank you both very much. We appreciate the
I do have a question. Is there any data? Everybody talks about data. Is there any data, concrete data on these students to show that they really do better?
Well, our two directors here have apprised the respective teachers of all of the students who attended, who did come to the summer programs. At this point, we haven't asked those teachers. Some of them are new to us, they're 7th graders, and we could do some comparison with previous years' data to a degree. They don't receive grades in elementary school, I think the kind of data that drives us at the moment is the qualitative, the soft data, student attitude about school, familiarity with it, willingness to do his or her best, happiness in being at school, all of those factors. And when I think about the kids who were here this summer and see those same kids day one and now through this quarter, I mean, they hit the ground running at the start of school this year. We wouldn't have seen that positive feeling and attitude. There were a couple of kids that I wondered about this summer if they were going to be on our high flyer list through the school year. You know,
Well,
those
we
are
have
the,
been warned about some kids,
Yeah.
and then we haven't seen that.
we haven't seen that at all. So there is a strong sense of belonging that they have demonstrated to us, and when they feel like they belong, that it's their school, they take pride in their school, but they also want to do their best. So that kind of data we are seeing, for sure.
Well, and I think we are tightening up the achievement gap when you look at our kneecap
Well,
scores.
yes, the
And-
BAMS
and-
committee has been well apprised of that narrow gap. There's virtually no gap in reading any longer, none, between low SES, low socioeconomic students and all other kids. We have closed that gap considerably.
And I think that's a combination of all the hard work the classroom teachers are doing and programs like these, because we just saw all the data about summer learning, and I think a lot of those kids that are low SES, we're tightening up that achievement gap because of
So
this.
you're tightening up the achievement gap by bringing the lower socioeconomic people up to where not the other people down.
That's the end.
We're bringing them all up, Mike.
Yeah.
I mean, our reading number this year, 80% of the student body was proficient in reading, for example. 76% of the low SES kids were proficient. We've had years way back where there was a 30-plus point gap between low SES and all kids. So now that gap of 4 percentage points is not statistically relevant. Yeah. And we have not lowered it for the top.
You know, when you close a gap, there's many ways to do it. I didn't know. Yeah.
No, it's worth asking.
Yeah.
We're bringing them all down.
Do you feel that you're reaching all the students that you should be reaching?
Well, I think we're reaching a lot of the right kinds of students that we need to be reaching, and I think Betsy and Suzanne did a good job of identifying that and reinforcing it. Could we have more of those right kinds of students? Yes, we always can. But it's pretty darn good that kids, as they have both said, will volunteer to come into the building for 6 or plus hours in the summer, because they're not required to be there. You know, in the days when I was in school, summer school had this very bad aura about it. And the connotation was, you're there because you're failing. That's not at all the feeling now.
Too, our programs are very, very individualized, and we really seek children out that need our help. And so we go into the lunchroom and say, you know, you didn't sign up for Beams After School this session, and I think this would be the perfect club for you, and what do you think? And, you know, it's very individualized, because the students that often are in the most need are not necessarily going to volunteer. They don't know how sometimes, and they don't have the family support. So, I mean, for the summer learning group that we get, we make phone calls home, a lot of them, to get those permission slips in, and because it's those same families that have a hard time filling out forms, those are the ones you want the most. So there's a lot of individual focus.
It's very hands-on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when you brought the program for the summer school, and I thought, wow, this is really a great program. So I was really hopeful that I'm the representative from the town of Wilton, that there would be an opportunity for some of the outlying towns to be included in this program. And, you know, I still feel that way. I feel like there is a certain amount of district funds, and we aren't able to afford and to promote such a good program in Guilford, I know. I don't know about Putney and Dummerston, but I think it would be a really nice thing to include the schools, middle schools, who don't have the availability of this somehow. I know it's the Brattleboro area middle school, it's a Brattleboro program, but it would be wonderful to include those other 3 schools somehow.
And I would love to see something particularly for students transitioning to 9th grade. And that would certainly include everyone, because we I'm
not do the 7th grade, but do the 8th graders.
Right,
Yeah.
because that actually would include the
Yeah.
towns you're talking about.
Yeah. I just put that out there because I think it would be a very valuable thing for those 3 towns. Certainly Guilford.
Okay. Thank you both very much. Appreciate it. Okay, we move on to consent agenda. Is there a motion to go into consent agenda? So moved. Ricky?
Second.
Second from Lou. Okay, all in favor? All right. Okay, we are in the consent agenda. I assume there was no nays and abstentions. I think I heard all ayes. Finance Committee.
Finance Committee met on Wednesday, October 3rd at 7 in the morning. And we approved warrants 1046, 1047, 1048, 1050, 1051, 1052, 1053, 1054, 1055, 1056, and 1057. And these are in 2 different batches. The 1046 to 1054 batch, the grand total was $349,813.16. And the smaller group, 1055, 56, and 57, the grand total of $54,801.69. We also approved payrolls which are not in this agenda, but they were a payroll of dated 9/7 of $503,460.60, and a payroll of 9/21 in the amount of $496,247.14. We also approved a snow removal contract. The contract was awarded to Zaluzny Excavating. And I'm sorry, I don't have the amount of that at this point. Did you get that, Bob? It wasn't on either one of the papers that I got, and I can't remember that long.
There were 4 bids. One of those bids was extremely low, to the point where it was felt that capability was an issue. When you get an outlier that far out, it really creates some concern that they don't understand what the assignment is. And there were 3 other bids, and Zaluzny was the selected bidder, and I don't have the exact total, but basically it's a 3-year bid, which we've been doing. Zaluzny has been doing the snow plowing. They have the equipment. They understand the needs. In recent years, bigger percentage of our bill has come from actually salting. A lot more icing nowadays than there used to be, and we do have to make sure that the entire facility is absolutely ice-free. And that's a big part of it. But after some review, Robert Clark and Jim Kane recommended who they thought was the best, and the committee agreed, and we will have Zeluzny doing snow removal for the next 3 years. A year like last year probably cost us a little more than it might have if we had gone with the per storm, but the year before that, when we were hauling away dump truck loads to get it out of the way, other way around. So this way we're set for the next 3 years. Anything else for finance?
I don't think of anything.
Well, tomorrow, or I'm sorry, Wednesday, we are going to meet again at 7 a.m. And we're going to talk about chips, right?
Oh, yes, wood
Not
chips.
poker chips or potato chips, but wood chips. We will be awarding the wood chip contract for heating. Okay, let's see here. Planning and policy.
Has not met, but we do now have some new policies finally coming down the pipe, so we will be meeting before the next board meeting to have our first reading on those.
Okay. Teacher curriculum.
Has not met since our last meeting.
Coding, you know.
That's something.
Hang in there. BAMS committee.
We met earlier this evening prior to this meeting, and we got a review about how bullying is, and anti-bullying workshops and things are being done with students, and looking at the numbers in the school climate at BAMS, which was very interesting to see some of the student reports of information. We also got a report on kneecaps, which just finished up, and how the kneecap process went this year with students, and sort of what the plan is to celebrate ending kneecaps this coming Wednesday. So it sounds like they're going to have a good time on Wednesday afternoon to celebrate ending kneecaps and doing really well on that. And we heard a little bit about, hopefully we'll get the reports earlier this year than we did last year, about how they actually did.
Okay, thank you. WRCC has not met since the last, is that correct, Ruth? You haven't met since
I
the
don't
last-
believe we have.
Okay, and anything else? Okay, is there a motion to accept consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. Vicki? You almost made it, Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, consent agenda is unanimously approved. Administrative reports. Well, let's work backwards down the table today, and we'll start with Mr. Burnett. Going in.
Thanks.
WRCC.
My handout here.
One announcement for WRCC tonight. On this past Thursday, a few WRCC instructors, along with a WRCC counselor in Durham, took 21 female students from BUHS and our sending schools, students to Vermont Technical College, to attend the 13th annual Women Can Do conference. The students participated in a full day of hands-on workshops with a focus on science, math, technology, STEM, public safety, and skilled trades. Examples of some of the workshops of our students attended were pedal power, welding wonders, natural building out in the north, and the full descriptions that they attended are in the handout. It's very well received. The female students have a great time, and they look forward to it every year to attend.
Is that it? We do have also a recognition for one of our instructors. Do you want to comment on that?
Yes,
Hamilton?
Dennis Hamilton
Yep.
received the Instructor of the Year award for FFA from the whole state of Vermont a few weeks ago, which is a great honor to have. He's a wonderful asset to the Career Center and for the kids.
Been a mainstay of that program for quite a while now.
I think 36 years.
Yeah.
Been a long time,
Yeah.
Yeah, well deserved.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Parent.
So at the high school, things continue to be busy. Tomorrow, we welcome the State Board of Education to this very room. They'll be having one of their meetings here. We're very excited. It's been 5 years since they came down here, and we're excited to have them here. That's due in great part to the efforts of Lachlan Francis, who is a Putney resident, who actually encouraged the State Board to come down here and meet here. They'll be taking a tour of the WRCC and BUHS. They'll also be hearing from Dr. Staley about Wyndham Regional Collegiate High School and the opportunities that's giving our students. That program really is a role model program for the state, and the board's interested in hearing more about that. So we're excited that they're coming. Fall sports are wrapping up, and winter sports are starting in a few short weeks. It's hard to believe that fall's wrapping up. One thing I wanted to just mention as part of fall sports and upcoming winter sports is the work that our trainer does, Josh Underwood. He's been here for 2 years, and he's the guy that came in and put in our concussion protocols that have benefited a lot of our students. He has probably wrapped more ankles than we've seen in our lifetime, and he works really well with 2 interns from Keene State, and is really helping them as well. And it's great, if you ever see Josh on the sidelines, it's great to watch him at his job as our trainer, so we're really lucky to have him. This past weekend we had our fall play, and it was another great play. This one was called Fools. No comment. And it's a Neil Simon play that very few people have heard of. And it was absolutely hilarious, start to finish. The kids did a great job, and Bob Kramsky and his crew should be commended for the work they did. We have parent conferences on Wednesday. We're doing an early release. Guilford buses will be here right when school gets out at 12:30. The other buses will run at the regular time. Those conferences will be from 3 to 7. We hope that all parents can join us to talk to their students' teachers. And on Thursday, we're having our in-service day. And our in-service day, part of the time will be spent doing our NEASC, continuing that process. And I have a little bit more about that under new business. And we'll also be working with John Collins. And John is the person who, oddly enough, came up with the John Collins writing program that we've been working. I know, who knew? John's going to come and kind of give our new faculty an introduction and give our older faculty a refresher. One of the reasons that's really important to us is as part of the kneecaps and college entrance exams, being able to write a constructive response is very important. So we want to make sure that our students know how to do that as well as longer essays. And that is it from the high school.
It was a pretty neat play. Very well done by the drama group. Okay, onward to BAMS.
Well, I'm sad to report that as we meet in this nice dry room, we have about 75 students and a dozen teachers sleeping in a lean-to at Mount Ascutney this evening.
It's warm.
And I just got a weather bug report on my phone. We're getting more than 1 inch an hour of rain here. So they left this morning, Team Taurus, 8th grade. Teachers probably have about a dozen staff members with them. They left about 9 this morning. They're coming back in time for buses tomorrow. And they have 2 full days planned. So we wish them well. We hope they're dry. Jerry just checked out the weather for tomorrow, and it is supposed to be sunny, so fortunately they'll dry up before they get back to school. It might take all morning for that to happen. The teachers did an amazing job planning this trip. I mean, they had 1,000 details to deal with, and did a terrific job with it. Our in-service this Thursday is focused on 4 topics. The use of data, development of common assessments between and among teachers, progress monitoring students and their achievement, and continuing work on curriculum maps. So we have a full day planned. The district data coach, Bryn Tucker, will be with us most of the day, working with the teachers in teams and groups. So it'll be a very good day, I believe. I'm looking forward to it. Next week, Lauren Petrie, who is our school assistance program counselor, will be shaping a week of activities for students around the theme Above the Influence. Some of you may be familiar with that concept, promoting prevention, awareness activities for kids relative to alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. So she has taken the lead in shaping what's going on all of next week for the kids. We're looking forward to that. Next Wednesday evening, during that week, we have an evening program for parents. It's Wednesday, October 25th at 7 o'clock on the same topic, the adolescent brain and substance use, abuse, and prevention. And we have Debbie Haskins, who is a consultant from the state, coming down. She's been in our building before, working with parents, has done a great job. I think she was with the high school.
She was
recently.
a few weeks ago.
Yep. I hear she did a very good job.
She was phenomenal.
Yeah. So she's coming back to work with the middle school parents as well. I'm happy about that. And our parent conferences are in November during the in-service time that's coming up then.
Thank you, BAMS.
You heard a lot from BAMS tonight.
Yes. And it's always good to hear a lot from BAMS. Right, Steve?
That's right. All about BAMS.
Okay. Ron is not here. Under the board chair report, I would just note that the Vermont State School Board Association regional meeting was held last Thursday night
Thursday.
at Leland and Gray. I was able to attend part of it. Ruth was able to attend the whole thing, so I'll let her give us a brief on what went on there.
Okay. These are always interesting meetings. We have to elect officers for the region at this meeting, and Mr. Richard Werner, who is the chair of the Dover School Board and has been on that board since 1997, was elected president of the Wyndham region. And David, I can never remember if his name is Scholes or Scholes, was elected vice president, and he's from the Brattleboro Town School District. And as has happened in the last several years, I've been elected the Resolutions Committee member for Wyndham County, which this committee gets together usually we only have one meeting a year, and it's usually in August, to go through resolutions that either the state office has come up with things that they would like to see put before the VSBA annual meeting, or individual school boards will sometimes send them in, and we go through them and discuss them, and sometimes we change some words, and sometimes we say, no, this isn't a good idea because. And we had our meeting in August, and I've been put back on that committee. And then we had some people come and talk to us, and if their names aren't in the front of this book, I won't remember who they are. and their names aren't in the front of the book.
Consultant named John, right?
There was a John Everett, he's a consultant. I think he kind of works not only with the VSBA, but the Superintendent's Association and the state. And he was very interesting. And they kind of have a slogan this year called Be the Change for Kids. And they're talking a lot about school boards making a difference for kids. They had slide presentations and everything went quite fast and a lot of bullets. But I have the book if anybody's interested in looking at it. They talk about the evolution of teaching toward learning, facilitating, and mentoring, and highly effective local governance with the board focus on student learning and board commitment to equal access to high quality education, and effective governance practices, including strong community engagement, and but there's a lot of information in this thing, and I can't take the time to go through all of it at this point.
There's a lot of focus on teaching outcomes, not to spend quite as much time emphasizing the process, but emphasizing the outcomes that we get from all of this. And I think that's a real positive way to go. And even as it relates to the teachers, and instead of focusing on how many minutes of this and how many minutes of that, what are the outcomes, and how do we get to the right outcomes? And it's always quite interesting to meet with people that are on boards of widely varying sizes, and to see, for one thing, the fierce local independence and support for the small schools in the face of amazing challenges in terms of dwindling numbers, and how do they provide programs when they keep shrinking in size. And that always makes me feel like, hey, we got a pretty good setup here, because we've got the resources and the assets and the staff to really offer some tremendous programs for the kids. And as much as people might like to keep their kids in their quiet little town where there's no bullying or anything like that, they just can't offer these kids the opportunities that we can. And that's what I take away from a lot of these regional meetings and talking with other folks.
But they're not about to send their kids out of their little town, no matter what. And BUHS and the virtual high school and the collegiate program were both mentioned by the people from the state school board association. So we are on the map.
The annual meeting of the VSBA is next week up at Lake Maury, and I plan to attend part of it. I won't be able to get there for the whole thing, but one of the parts that I will see is Ron Staley and his team making a presentation to the entire group, so that will be interesting too. Again, all around this collegiate high school programming. We really are out on the forefront of that in the state of Vermont, no question about it.
And what is that meeting again?
It's the VSBA,
Okay.
Vermont School Boards Association annual meeting.
Okay.
The meeting that Ruth and I went to was a regional, and they have those all over the state. This is for the entire state, once a year. And it's been at Lake Tahoe since I can remember, probably as long as even Sean can remember. Okay, I think that's it for administrative reports. There's nothing listed under unfinished business. Under new business, we had the report from BAMS on the summer programs. We have a memorandum of understanding for school resource officer. And then Mr. Parent has another item after that.
So we began, this came up, I want to say in August. Lori, our board member, brought this up that the Vermont legislature had changed some of the requirements for a memorandum. And it was a motion about SROs and their roles in buildings. And two of the things that came up were use of restraint by a school resource officer and also use of weapons. And in both cases, the legislature recommended that there be an explicit mention of those policies in a memorandum of understanding. And Keith Clark, you may remember, was away for a long time down in Virginia. He's been back for a few weeks, and he and I have talked a few times in person and on the phone. And so the changes that we made in regard to weapons and restraint are pretty simple. And if you take a look at bullet number item number 3, we've modified that to discuss the standard duty gear. And that duty gear does involve what's called a duty belt. And that belt does include items such as their sidearm, flashlight, radio, spray, and a baton. And that was what we put in there. So it was understood that the SRO does carry a weapon. They always have. And that's just part of their regular garb. Sheriff Clark did add the sentence that's lighter about the uniform requirement may be adjusted for special circumstances, field trips, sporting events, social activities. For example, our SRO is actually going on a field trip, I believe tomorrow, to go see Romeo and Juliet. And I think it's great. He's trying to get out there and he's trying to meet some of the kids. And so he's going to go down to New England Youth Theater on a field trip, and he's not going to wear his gun on that trip. So, because we all know the weapon was a knife, not a gun. The other change that we made was number 4. In education, we have very different restraint techniques and requirements, and we have to document anytime we do a restraint. We have certain rules that govern how we do a student restraint or seclusion. Law enforcement has a different set of rules. They do still have to fill out and complete any forms if they do a restraint in school, so we know what happened. But what they need to do is their restraint techniques have to be consistent with what the practices are established by the sheriff and the state of Vermont. And the deputies will only use restraint as necessary to bring an incident under control. And those techniques may be different from the ones that we use. We tend to use something called crisis prevention. They use a different restraint protocol.
So this is based on state recommendations as to...
Right, that we needed to discuss. The idea was that we would acknowledge that SROs do carry weapons and that they do have the right to perform restraints if necessary. I can't think of a time when I've seen an SRO involved in a restraint in our building.
They're present, perhaps.
They're present, but...
If one is occurring, but
Right.
it's done by our own staff.
Right, if we need to do it.
Do you need a motion on this?
That's my question.
I don't think we do, but Lori had brought it up and wanted to discuss it. I wish she was here.
Well, it looks to me like it's meant to be signed by administrator.
Right.
And, but I guess we would, if anybody on the board has any questions, concerns, that we could discuss them. Otherwise, we are informed.
Right, that's really, I think, it's information.
I just have a question about liability. Does the sheriff department carry some kind of liability insurance, or, I mean, if something happened, I'm sure we'd all get lumped into being brought into the
Right.
court, the lawsuit, but I was wondering if, you know, if they have some kind of standalone insurance, or
I
how that would
think
work.
they do, I think. And so I think if there was an incident, I think I think their insurance carrier or whoever underwrites their liability would look at their protocol. Did they follow their protocols? We would look at ours and say, did we follow ours? It's one thing you would never, I don't think you would ever see here is you'd never see one of our staff members doing a sheriff-style restraint. And I think vice versa is true. When I talked to Deputy Gaylord about it, who was our current SRO, he said that their intent when they do a restraint is to bring a situation under control. And I think that's a broader definition of what we use. So ours is to prevent harm to others or to somebody harming themselves. So.
Could you share that this electronically with Lori, just since she's not here,
Sure.
and she would, I think she'd
Absolutely.
appreciate that,
Yeah.
since this was something that she was really concerned about.
Yeah.
It'd be great for her to have that.
Okay, and you have another item that you'd like to...
I do. Sorry. Our NAESC standard number 5 is school culture and leadership. And they have a short survey for the board members. And it's 3 questions. And there's 2 questions they're trying to answer. What they're looking for is to evaluate the degree to which school leadership is collaborative, reflective, and constructive. And so there's 3 questions for you. The question I have, which I would appreciate some feedback on if you want to do that on here as well, is I need to provide evidence that the school board and superintendent provide the principal with sufficient decision-making authority to lead the school. I think it happens. I don't feel as if I don't have that authority, but I'm just trying to think of specific evidences. And
There you go.
well, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at our hiring practices, looking at scheduling of meetings and in-services within the building. But you
The
have
cell phone that you brought up this fall, early in the fall, that's perfect
Policies.
examples.
Thanks.
Yeah.
The school policy. So, 3 quick questions. They'd be most appreciative if you can do that.
And you need to turn in the results at midnight, is that correct?
I do.
So I would ask that before you leave, each of you on the board, please. Are you going to give them a Ingrid will write on there, he thinks he's in charge. Okay. All right. Is there any other business to come before the meeting tonight? If not,
I move we adjourn.
okay. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. We thank you all very much.